to how to make a bunny doll. This tutorial is ranked intermediate as some basic sewing experience will be needed. The pattern for this tutorial is available on my Etsy shop and a link can be found in my bio. This pattern has a 1/4 inch seam allowance already accounted for, so you do not need to factor that into your pieces, and the numbers indicated on each pattern piece are the number of pieces that you will need for that particular shape. We'll be taking this nice and slow today for our visual learners, and we're going to start by placing our fabric face down and laying out our pattern. For this pattern, you will need to mirror your pieces, as I am demonstrating here, and this applies to the ears as well. If you skip this step, you will find out that your pieces are not going to line up correctly. And this is how I like to map my pattern. In this tutorial, you'll see me using a sewing machine, though you can definitely sew this by hand, follow the same sewing guidelines, and I would recommend using a blanket stitch. I highly recommend using fray check. Before cutting out your pieces, simply trace the inner line of your piece to help lock up the fibers and help prevent seam blowouts. Always test swatch on a piece of scrap fabric though to make sure that the adhesive is compatible with your fabric. Once all your pieces have been cut out, match the face side in, and then you will sew your pieces as demonstrated here and by the red line indicated on your pattern. When sewing the arms, be sure to leave a 1 to 2 inch gap along the back side of the arms for turning and stuffing. And here's a little demonstration. And now you can go ahead and turn your pieces. I also like to gently roll my seams to help relax them into place. And I like to pre-gather my ears before assembling my head. So we're going to take the thinnest part of the ear and we're going to fold it over on itself to sandwich it like this. And then run a little stitch just along the edge. We're going to go ahead and repeat this with the second ear, and we should be left with something like this. Now let's assemble the head of our doll. On the pattern for your head, you will notice a thick black dash on the inner seam. This is a guideline for ear placement. You're going to copy this mark onto both the front and the back side of your head, and then you're going to rematch the pieces with their corresponding mate. With your inner ear facing down, line up the top of the ear with the dash that you just made up on your fabric like this. The stitches at the base of the ear also make a great guideline for depth placement. Start at the top of the head and sew down towards the neck, leaving a small 1/4 inch gap that we will later need. And then open the pieces to reveal the left and the right side of the face. Point the ears back towards the back of the head and press the seams to help relax them. Line up the two sides as demonstrated and pin them into place, making sure the seams at the top are lined up neatly. To start, place your first stitch about a 1/2 inch from the seam and work clockwise towards the back of the head. Once you go over the seam at the top of the head, pull the ears down into what will be the neck and sew up the back of the head, being careful not to sew into the ears. To turn the head, gently pull the ears down and then use your fingers to push out the seams. Now it's time to fill your doll. This pattern performs best with a tightly packed stuffing. The pieces should be firm, but still have some give to them. You can also gently squish your stuffing around to help relieve any lumps and to help correct the shape. To sew up the arms of the doll, you're going to use a light colored thread and use a ladder stitch. The end result should be pretty invisible. To create a solid join for the neck, we're going to fold down these rounded flaps into the doll and then attach the head using a ladder stitch. To attach the arms of your doll, you will need a doll needle, some buttons, and thread. I like to use 3 strands of embroidery thread and work with about an arm's length of string. Start by piercing the needle through the inside shoulder of the doll arm like this, and then knot off 3 times and clip the tail string. We will attach the arms by running a string in a circular pattern through the doll. We will start this by running a needle through the back right shoulder of the doll, pushing the needle all the way through and exiting the back left shoulder. The thread will then re-enter on the front left shoulder and exit the front right shoulder. You will continue in this pattern 3 times to secure and strengthen the arm movement of the doll. And here's a demonstration from the side showing you the needle's placement around the seams. Before you start sewing, make sure that the flat side of the doll arm is facing towards the back. Line up your arm and decide where you would like your shoulders to sit. Drive the needle through the doll and eyeball the placement, trying to get it as level as possible. Pull the needle through, pulling the right arm up and against the body. Pick up the left arm and string it onto the needle using the buttonholes as guidelines. You will want them to come up through the left hole and back down through the right hole. Line the left arm up with the body and work your needle through the left front shoulder to the right front shoulder and out the right arm. And then add on the button as you did with the left arm and continue this pattern 2 more times. To keep things neat, work your needle back through the holes that you've already created and be sure to keep your string nice and tight. After your third pass through, work your thread to the back side of the right arm. Tie off your arm by knotting the string onto itself like this. Now run your needle back through one of the stitches under the arm and exit anywhere on the body. Pull your string tight and cut. This will hide the tail of your string on the inside of your doll. Be sure to test your arms after this. Give them light tugs, swivel them back and forth, and move them around just to make sure that nothing's going to come undone or no stitches will pop. A bunny isn't complete without its tail. In this pattern, you'll find a template for the tail, but you can adjust this to be any size that you wish. Keep in mind the fluffier the fur, the larger the puff is going to be in the end. Working with about half an arm's length of thread, weave a stitch all the way around the outer circle of the tail, stopping just a stitch away from where you started. Pull the ends of the string to gather the fabric into a ball and fill the center with stuffing, and then pull the threads tight. Pull your leading thread to shorten your tail and then tie a knot. Repeat this knot 3 times and then cut off the tail. Use your leading string and a ladder stitch to secure your tail to the doll. You'll want to make sure to work your way around the tail several times and check for any gaps or places that the stuffing may be popping out. Also be sure that none of the fur gets stuck in the stitches as you're going, and if it does, just give it a little fluff. Once everything's looking nice and neat, drive your needle to the base of the tail and then knot off 3 times. Take your needle back through the base of the tail and out the side. Cut the string to hide the string ends inside of the tail. You have now completed your bunny doll and it is ready to decorate. I like to use black glass eyes and either sculpt or stitch the nose, but really the sky is the limit. I would definitely love to see what you guys come up with, so be sure to tag me, and as always, happy crafting!